Empire. How does Tom Brady keep on doing it? We're going to talk to the guy who knows some of his secrets. What's up, everybody? It's Mike Jones. Thanks for coming back for another episode of the Football Jones podcast. You can read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByMikeJones. And as I said, the guy who knows what goes on behind the scenes with Tom Brady, that has positioned him still at the age of 43, still an elite quarterback, still in contention for a Super Bowl, still outperforming guys 15, in some cases 20 years younger than him. Our guest is Tom House, former major league pitcher, now a pitching coach and a quarterback coach, has worked with Tom Brady for years now, and he's going to tell us how Tom Brady does it. Really going to enjoy this guest. I think you're going to find it fascinating. One of my favorite episodes that I've done so far, because just of what a great guy Tom House is, all the knowledge. I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of like, the thing that fascinates me with sports is the process and knowing how players get to where they are and what makes a team good, what makes a coach good, what makes things work, how they put it all together. And so there's nobody better than Tom House to tell us about what Tom Brady does, what they focus on, and how he is still as good as he is. And so we're going to get to it right now.
Welcome to McDonald's. What can I get you today?
Hi, she'll have the quarter pounder with cheese, extra mustard.
No pickles.
And I'll have a 10-piece chicken McNuggets. And 2 sides of ranch, please.
The we've done this before meal. Get it at McDonald's when you get 2 of your faves for just $5.
Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Single item at regular price.
And now here we are. We are joined by well-known, well-respected, highly accomplished quarterback coach, quarterback guru, Tom House. Coach,
I gotta hang around with you more often. That's a great intro. So, guru and Tom in the same sentence is a little iffy, but I'll accept it for today.
Hey, well, I just know that you have worked with so many pro quarterbacks and some of the best, so you must be doing something right.
Well, to be honest, I just happened to be at the bus stop when all the right stuff showed up. And what I represent is old school and new school, old Asian treachery and youth and exuberance, and putting it all together with technology. And that's how we're helping these elite guys. You know, Brady and Brees would have been Hall of Famers if I'd never run into them. But what we've managed to do is identify why they are Hall of Famers. And when you've got a why, then you can actually inform and instruct down the line. And hopefully that's where the kids in the sports world will make out.
Well, that is great of you to say. I bet you if we had them on here, they would say you probably added about another, 4 or 5 passing titles to their resume from their work with you, because there's a reason why they kept working with you.
Yeah, when I was in baseball, we proved with Nolan Ryan and actually Jamie Moyer, who is the anti-Nolan Ryan, with a little soft thrower.
Right.
Both of those guys pitched into their late 40s. So we knew if you did the right things, there's no reason you can't do at 45 what you did at 25, but you have to follow process and the right things. And if I brought anything to the party, it was identifying the mechanics, the functional strength, the mental, emotional, and the recovery things necessary to continue to be productive into your 40s. So that's when you hear Tom and Drew talking about what we've done, that is exactly what we've done.
Okay, so tell me what it was like for you on Sunday watching these two guys you've worked with for many, many years face off for probably the last time. As we know, it sounds like Drew is, contemplating, but what was that like for you seeing them on the field like that?
It's top 3. Maybe catching Henry Aaron's 715. hearing Nolan Ryan talk about me in his Hall of Fame speech, and then this weekend watching Drew and Tom Brady go after each other, knowing that I'd had a coaching relationship with him, but even more importantly, a friendship and a mentorship relationship. So it was pretty special. So when I'm telling my lies in the next 5 or 6 years, there actually has some truth to them.
Okay, real quick, can we hit the pause on the football talk? And I want to hear about you catching Hank Aaron's ball. What was that moment like for you?
And that was, here's the good news. It was the highlight of my major league pitching career. And the bad news is that was the highlight of my major league pitching career. It got me in the Hall of Fame. It gave me a little notoriety. It made Henry still a friend. I still have his cell phone. We don't talk as much as we should, but it got me to a little profile that I would have never achieved if I hadn't been in the bullpen at that point in time.
Gotcha. So that's pretty special. And I imagine that you have a ton of special memories and everything to go along. But for Sunday to be among your top three, that's awesome. I know for me watching it, and then after the game, watching them on the field, in their street clothes, they talked to each other for about 20 minutes. I was like, man, this is pretty special.
Yeah, very emotional. And you're in the business, so you know how special that moment was. Nobody's ever going to see that again. Never again in football will there be two 40-year-old Hall of Famers playing against each other. And it's not that it couldn't be done. It's just with the circumstances involved with sports right now and the money involved, there's no reason for anybody to play that long. These guys did it because what I was smiling at, they're both 40-year-old, 12-year-olds. If you took everything away, they would still be out there for the joy of competition and playing. So it was pretty special.
When did you first start working with Tom and with Drew?
Well, Drew came first.
Okay.
I think it was about 18 years ago with Drew. He was with the Chargers, and he went through a traumatic shoulder injury.
Right.
The Dr. Andrews down in Birmingham put him back together, and it was a good surgery, but nobody thought he'd ever be able to throw a football again.
No.
So we just started doing stuff, experimenting with things that had never been done before, both throwing wide.
Did he seek you out, or did you reach out to him? How did the relationship start?
I had known him through Cam Cameron, who I still work with. Cam was the offensive coordinator at that time, and I'd known Cam through his kids that played baseball. And we actually, at that time, as a pitching coach, I had my pitchers throw footballs.
Okay.
So it was like one of these moments. What do they call it? Zeitgeist, when at the right time at the right place for the right reason. Anyway, it matched up there, and we fixed his shoulder, obviously, and he signed with the Saints, and the rest is history. And since then, it sounds like it was a really heavy duty. I'm the coach and you're the athlete. It was more of a collaboration. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think I learned as much or more from them as they did from me. And the fact that I'd already dealt with a few Hall of Famers in baseball and a couple in golf, I started to see these similarities between these elite athletes. And concurrently, we had motion analysis capacity for the first time. We were measuring at 1,000 frames a second. We were into a different type of conditioning called functional strength training, not absolute strength. Nutrition and sleep started, people started talking about it for a change. And then the mental emotional thing, I think Yogi Berra said it best, 90% of sports are 50% mental. All those pieces started to fit together. And the net result is you're seeing, guys like Tom and Drew, and right behind them, guys like Rogers and Matt Ryan. And, the next group is 37, 38 years. They're going to play into their early to mid 40s. So pioneers, yes, but all of them are just big kids playing a sport.
Gotcha. And then how did the Brady relationship start?
Let's see. Brady was 8 to 9 years ago, there was his backup quarterback in New England. The year that Brady hurt his knee was a guy named Matt Castle.
Yeah.
And Matt Castle played football and baseball at USC, where I played and actually coached. And as luck would have it, one day, Matt Castle brought Tom Brady to a workout. And at that workout, we had Alex Smith, we had Drew. There was about $4 billion worth of quarterbacks all just dinking around. We were up at USC, and it was a really fun day. And it started off, Tom said, could I come and work with you guys? And so it wasn't planned out. It was word of mouth. The quarterback fraternity is a small little group. And I think Drew probably gave credibility to it by actually saying I might know what I was doing. And that literally started it with me. And then it grew into, I don't know if you realize, we have a company called 3DQB, where we're actually working with 24 of the top 32 NFL quarterbacks in the game.
Wow.
And their backups, and about 50 or 60 of these collegiate quarterbacks to be. So it started out as just, kind of a fun thing to do, and it's actually turned into a pretty good little business.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So what were some of the things, maybe the ABCs that you were trying to get them to apply to their throwing motions, to their shoulders, to make them, to just fine tune? Like you said, obviously these guys are super talented, but you brought something else out of them. What were some of those things that you preached?
Well, what we were able to do, Mike, is when we got, we probably have about 85, maybe 86 elite quarterbacks in the computer going all the way back to Marino and Montana.
Okay.
So when you can measure and quantify what the best in the game do with their timing, their kinematic sequencing, and then the coaching variables like balance and posture and, all the things with footwork, you put that model out front and then you compare what they're doing relative to the perfect model and you teach accordingly. So what Drew works on and battles is a little different than what Tom Brady works on and battles.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like one set of rules, and each athlete is personally adapted training differently. But what I tell Pop Warner quarterbacks, GFF, go friggin' fast,
Mm-hmm.
keep your eyes level, keep your front side firm, and drag your back foot. So all the 50 years worth of research goes to those 4 sentences.
Wow.
Go friggin' fast, keep your eyes level, keep your front side firm, and drag your back foot.
Wow. Well, that's it right there. But that also, I imagine, is a little easier said than done.
Yes.
Do all of that. So what goes into training a quarterback to be able to move fast and keep his eyes level? Because we see quarterbacks, their eyes are looking at the line, then they're looking back up, and they're kind of, and that's when they get into trouble. So what do you train them?
The idea is quick feet equals quick release.
Okay.
And you never want to be out of balance. You want to make sure that even when you're being chased by 4 tons of human beings that are trying to tear your head off, you have to make sure that you get your target line and make sure your target line and you're throwing receivers open, not throwing to what happens with most young quarterbacks. They can throw to an open receiver,
Mm-hmm.
but the elite ones are able to throw a receiver open. Did that make sense?
Yeah, you hear the term throw them open. So go into a little more detail on what you mean by that.
All right, so you're an offensive or a defensive lineman chasing me, and I'm a short quarterback fighting for my life. This is what it looks like. There's all this stuff in between you and me, and then there's a receiver behind you that's being defended by, a corner or whatever it might be. So out of all this chaos, you know that if you throw it to the post on the right hash, toward the post on the right hash mark, even though it doesn't look like it, in a couple seconds, this little window opens up.
Okay.
And the good ones get the football through that window. And I think they call them dimes. That's quarterback talk. They're able to find that dime. And that's the difference between an elite NFL quarterback and everybody else.
They got to have that anticipation.
And it all leads into, sometimes what your eyes see lie to you a little bit, but it doesn't stop you from being able to get your body in a position to throw the football correctly, on time, at the right place, at the right time.
Okay. So let's go into Brees. Obviously, he's a shorter quarterback. What were the things that you focused on in the battles with him that he refined and that got him to the successful point and made him so effective?
Well, Drew is a little easier to teach than Brady is. We modeled all our elite athletes on a 6-foot athlete that weighed 200 pounds.
Okay.
So the quarterbacks in today's game, some of those kids are 6'5", 6'7". I think the kid with the Chargers is 6'7".
Yeah.
Those Tom Brady and those guys, they have a little bit tougher time getting their nervous system to talk to their muscles correctly, because it's a road trip between their fingertips and their brain.
Okay.
Drew, on the other hand, was a quick study when it came to mechanical efficiency. He picks up movement really, really well. It takes Tom a little longer to learn, but the same rules apply to both of them. So if Brady takes a little bit longer to get fingertips to brain communication, it doesn't stop him from getting his feet, arranging his body at the right place at the right time so his arms can happen. So I never had to talk to Drew about quick feet, because as he was growing up, he was a shortstop, played tennis. He's quick feet naturally. With guys like Brady and Goff and the big tall ones, they literally have to fight like crazy to get their feet moving, because you really can't throw a football efficiently until that front foot gets down. And then you've got all the interruption from the pocket caving in on you and people chasing you, and eventually maybe even having to throw on the run. So we call it personally adaptive cross specificity training. That's a big way to say there's one set of rules, but we tailor them to fit how you're put together. So if you were to ask me what are the similarities between teaching Drew and teaching Tom, the model is there, but how they personally adapt the information and instruction is the function of how they're put together. Did that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Now, Brady isn't a guy that we think of as being mobile. But what are the secrets that you taught him to get those feet moved quickly and to be able to throw on the run effectively?
He's very mobile.
Okay.
People don't realize he's mobile in the pocket. He's not speed fast,
Okay.
but he's quick.
Okay.
So in his little territory, his little phone booth, he's very mobile, very quick, and very intuitive with what's going on around him. He doesn't look as fast or as quick doing it in his little arena, but he is. Quarterbacks have to get the ball out of their hand really quick. I'll throw something that's kind of proprietary, but they have to weight transfer in about 0.17 seconds, because the football is going to take 0.25 seconds to get out of their hand. You add those two things together, and if the football's not out of your hand in about half a second in the NFL, you're in trouble. So you teach the timing, you teach to their kinematic sequencing. Long arm guys look like they're taking forever to throw the ball because their arms are long. Mm-hmm. They're just as quick as a Drew Brees is, who looks like a little short arm guy. When you put your eyes lot, but when you put your eyes and the computer together, it's amazing how similar they really are. Did that make sense what I just said?
Yeah. I mean, it's
your eyes lie to you. When you're watching, and just with the human eye can see about 34 frames a second.
Okay.
Well, we ID these guys. We measure them at 1/400th of a second to 1,000th of a second. So we actually see what the body's doing. that's the beauty of technology.
Okay. Now I'm going back to a guy that everybody always talked about having a long windup, Byron Leftwich. So you're meaning to tell me, even though it looked like it was long, it really was just fractions of a second different.
Yeah, those guys that look like they're long armors, that look it this is a perfect 90-90. The guys that throw a football and it just looks pristine, they'll get 90 degrees out of their forearm in their throwing arm, 90 degrees out of their front side forearm.
Okay.
There's some guys that are inside like Drew is, and there's some guys that are outside of 90 like a golf.
Okay.
But no matter where they are, they still have to get the football out of their hand in that from foot strike to 0.25. So if they're outside route guys, all the other parts of their body are a little quicker to allow the same time at release.
Okay.
So again, it is that they're special. I mean, I played in the big leagues, and when I look at a real superstar, to this day I just marvel at their kinematic sequencing and their proprioception. Their ability to understand where their body is in space and actually throw something. So, long story short, they all look different doing the same thing.
Gotcha. Now, when you started working with Brady, this was a number of years ago. He said he wanted to play till he was 45. As he started getting to his 40s, did you feel like, oh, he's got a lot left in the tank, or have you been surprised by this? What did you see on the horizon for him?
Well, remember, we have modalities, we have ways to test,
Okay.
and we proved it with Nolan Ryan. They're called windows of trainability. So your first window is neurological, your second window is muscle, your third window is skill acquisition, and your fourth window is skill retention. When these aging athletes get into that fourth stage, they literally go back and retrain their bodies like they were 8 or 9 years old again. So as they get a little older, they got plenty of strength.
Mm-hmm.
They have flexibility, they have mobility. What happens is the nervous system starts to slow down. So you work on, speed of movement rather than strength of movement. So again, depending on their age, I'll tell you what, you and I we're putting on a camp here, a clinic.
I'm
So
learning a lot.
There's a biological age and a chronological age. So Brady might be 43 years old chronologically, but his biological age is probably 34, 35.
Okay.
So and you can be like a Bryce Harper in baseball. When he was 16 years old, he literally was 27, 28-year-old kid biologically. That's why he was so good so early. So, it's a bell curve. There's outliers on both sides. But you and I could actually say to the general public with some semblance of conviction that if you follow the right process, there's no reason you can't do at 45 what you were doing at 25. And that's whether you're a handicapped golfer or a club tennis pro or playing on, a beer league softball team. But you have to do the right things. You have to pay the price. To have longevity requires a commitment to excellence. And that's probably the last thing I would say about these guys that are superstars, Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Their commitment to getting better every day in some way it's pathological. They literally, now they still have fun doing it.
Yeah.
But every day they try to get better at something.
What is Brady better at this year than what he was 5 years ago?
He's probably held his own physically, but what he's proven to himself is that, especially this year, he left a very comfortable system that he knew like the back of his hand. And when he first got down to the Bucks, he felt like a rookie.
Yeah.
So he had to go through a learning curve, like a first year, learning the playbook and the new vocabulary and learning new teammates and all that kind of stuff. So what he proved to himself was you can push on any part of his four things and he got very comfortable being uncomfortable. And when you can do that, you realize you learn more from your screw ups or your failures than you do from your successes. And these old veterans understand that the learning process requires a little bit of failure. And the outcome may be booed by you and me, but the learning to get to that outcome, win, lose, or draw, is what you pay attention to. And even on Sunday, probably might be the last game of his professional career, Drew actually felt like he learned a couple of new things.
Wow.
But that's the difference between you and me and them.
Right.
Every situation is a learning situation.
And I think we saw that with Brady this year. They had a rough patch, and then as the season started getting towards the end, he's looking like he's playing better than he has all year.
And you should tell this to your own kids. Anybody can go good. If it was easy, everybody would be good. And if everybody was good, it would be easy. But it's not. The true test of authenticity of character and commitment to purpose is understanding that you're going to fail at something, and the failure doesn't define you. The process does. Outcomes, and you and I live in an outcome world. We get paid on ratings, we get paid on wins and losses, on sales, but outcomes are not controllable, only process. Do you feel like you're being lectured to? Tell me the truth.
No, I feel like I am just got a gift of a golden egg and all this knowledge pouring out of it. I love the process. That's one thing I like about being a reporter and doing interviews with athletes, is learning about their brain and how they work and how they make it happen. And so this is just, I'm like,
and I'll tell you what, Mike, it's, I'm having a good time. I hope you can see this. If people ask, what is this Mustard app all about? It's what you and I are talking about right now. We are democratizing all this elite information, putting it into an app that goes in a cell phone that you can give to a 12-year-old in somewhere out in the plains of Wyoming, and he gets the same instruction that you and I are talking about right now.
And so he can look on his phone and step by step know what to work on and things like that.
Yeah. We will identify the problem,
Okay,
and give him a solution. We'll identify where his weakness is and give him a way to train. We'll identify where his movement issues are and give him a way to pattern. And that's the super thing about technology. And the people that are surrounding me right now and taking what I would call 50 years of screw ups or experience, whatever you want to call it, and actually programming it, coding it to where it will actually make sense to a mom and dad working with a 12-year-old in their backyard. It's really cool stuff. I think it's the best thing that I've ever done.
well, see, and that's the thing. Like, I'm a dad. I've got 3 boys that play baseball. 2 of them play flag football. And you're always in the backyard and you're trying to figure out how to help your kid figure out, what's wrong. And
Yeah,
I'm like, I can only tell you so much, Timmy.
this Mustard app will make you look real good, Pops.
Okay.
I'm telling you right now. I mean, really, really good. Okay.
Okay.
So can I make a suggestion? If anybody has any interest, if they could go to Team Mustard, MSTRD,
Okay.
that's kind of a drop in and have a look thing.
Right.
We're in beta testing. It's never fast enough for me,
Right.
but we're actually ahead of schedule based on what I was initially told. So we should have an app pretty ready to go by the end of this quarter.
Okay.
Right now, we're still involved in beta testing, but it's turning out to be a really, really good product.
When did you get the idea of, like, let me transfer all of this stuff to even reach a wider audience and reach these kids? Because in the beginning, when we were talking, you said that's what this is about. You really want to be able to impact kids.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things when it was like the perfect set of circumstances. One of the athletes that I was working with when I was up at USC doing research, Luke Collis, was a quarterback in the Arena League.
Okay.
It turns out that his big brother, Rocky Collis, not only was a minor league pitcher, I believe in the Miami organization, but anyway, he was also a venture capitalist lawyer, and he'd come and listen to some of the lectures, and he heard me say one time that we're probably missing out on Nolan Ryan's and Tom Brady's and these elite athletes. They never get a chance to figure out if they could play. Wouldn't it be great? In today's world, 80% of kids stop playing sports by age 14. What would happen if they just played through high school? We might find 20 more Drew Breeses.
Right.
And it was actually Rocky's idea. It was his brainstorm. Well, I wonder if we could democratize, humanize artificial intelligence, get mom and dad of a 12-year-old over in Europe to have the same information that you and I are talking about right now. So again, it was a combination of a whole bunch of people being at the right place at the right time. You Forrest Gump, that's what they call me behind my back. I'm like Forrest Gump. I just happen to be places where good things happen. Catching Henry's home run, this was one of those Forrest Gump things. We just happened to be sitting in the bullpen giving a lecture. Rocky came up with the idea, and now you're seeing the practical application.
Okay, and now is it just for football, or is it football and baseball, or what?
It's baseball right now. We're starting off where I think I have the most credibility, which is pitching.
Okay.
But it's going to be any rotational athlete. If you throw or swing something, you're going to have an app that will show you how you could become a Hall of Famer if you follow process.
All right. Well, I got 3 baseball players, so
I'll tell you what. Of all the sports that are out there, baseball is probably, you can make a lot of money in the big leagues without having to be the fastest, throw the hardest, or hit the farthest. So are they pitchers, hitters? Where do they play?
Yeah. My oldest son, who's a high school sophomore, he's a pitcher, and
Okay.
he also plays outfield now. He was shortstop, but they moved him out there. And then my second son is a pitcher and second baseman, and the third one's a pitcher and an outfielder.
Awesome. I'll tell you this: if he can hit, if they can all hit, they can play other positions, but if they can hit, someone will put them in a position. The second easiest way to get to the big leagues is being a pitcher, especially a left-handed pitcher. Okay. So if I was consulting with you about your boys, if they're pitching, teach them a curveball. Okay. Because there's good curveball hitters, but nobody hits a good curveball. And conventional wisdom tells kids their curveballs hurt the arm. It's not. I'll share this with you. Okay. Curveball thrown right properly is the easiest pitch on the arm. So I pitched in the big leagues for 9 years, throwing curveballs and everything else behind that. So if they're pitching, show them a curveball. If they're hitting, continue to have them hit. Right. And if they can hit, someone will put them in a position where they can get to the big leagues. Okay. Do they love baseball? Is that their best sport?
Oh, they do. They have, they play other sports, but they're eat up with baseball. I mean, I come home from the gym every morning and they're watching, baseball highlights or,
Perfect. Now, can I ask you one more question? Put you on a spot. Okay. Don't let them specialize. They need to play other sports too. They can specialize when they get out of high school. Okay. But right now, their number one sport might be baseball. But have them, tennis, kick a soccer ball around, play some lacrosse. Okay. But don't specialize till they get out of high school. Okay.
Okay. That's what I always try to tell them is like, okay, now my younger two, they love basketball and they play flag football too. My older one, I'm having to say, hey, no, come on. You gotta play something else too.
Yeah, a little while longer. So, playing flag football, right? Because Drew Brees, he developed that flag football league. He was a tennis player in high school. You know what he's doing with these kids now? Playing lacrosse. Oh, it's turned out that lacrosse teaches throwing and hitting. Okay. So you never know.
Right. Good deal. Now I want to ask you real quick because I know I've held you for a while here. Have you worked with Aaron Rodgers as well?
Aaron is the one quarterback that I'm so appreciative of just watching. But other than saying hi, I've never worked with him. Okay. But I don't think any quarterback coach has to work with him. He might be the best pure thrower. Gotcha. That's out there right now. And I think he didn't throw that way in college, but hanging around with Brett Favre for 3 or 4 years, I think he and Brett came up with a secret formula.
Okay, gotcha. I was going to ask you. So now we've got Tom, who's one of your guys, facing off with Aaron. I bet this would be a pretty exciting matchup that you'll enjoy watching as well, huh?
Yeah, and it's like like watching Drew and Tom. What I was sitting in the stands, I hope both quarterbacks do great, and the game is basically decided by special teams. That's kind of what I'm going to be watching. With it's supposed to snow, so
Yeah.
that makes it a little bit more interesting. But we'll see. I'm a fan also.
Right. Now, who's your favorite young or a couple of favorite young quarterbacks that are making a name for themselves now?
Well, remember when I brought up Cam Cameron?
Yeah.
Cam Cameron actually evaluates quarterbacks for a number of teams in the NFL. And he told me yesterday, I called him from the airport. He said in his evaluation of the quarterbacks that are in the NFL right now, he thinks there are actually 10 elite youngsters out there. He said this is the best quarterback talent and skill that he's seen in his 50 years of professional football. So they're coming, if you think about it. And they're coming there's more coming out this year. So again, right place at the right time for the right reason. All these youngsters are getting the benefit of both old school and new school science, quantification, and then the toolkit to actually, this is what you are and this is how you fix. That's where it is right now.
Good deal. Well, I really, really appreciate your time. This is one of my most enjoyable, most fun, and most learning-packed interviews that I've done in quite some time. So tell everybody where they can find the information about Mustard one more time.
Yeah, and this is for you too, guaranteed. If you just go to Team Mustard, mstrd.com, that'll get you started. Okay. And I'll make a personal pledge to you that if you get in and get crazy with this, you know how to get a hold of me. If I can help you and your boys, you got me. Okay?
I appreciate it.
All right. I had fun. I'll hang out with you anytime.
All right. Sounds good. We'll definitely have to do it again. Thank you so much for your time.
You bet. Have a blessed day.
All right. You too.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens this weekend. A great shootout on tap, potentially. Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers up there in Green Bay. I will be there. They say it's supposed to snow some on Sunday. Hopefully not too bad. Last year, when I went up to Green Bay in the divisional round, it was like blizzard-like conditions on the way back. It was supposed to take me an hour and a half to drive back to Milwaukee, and it wound up being 3 hours. I got back to my hotel room at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was bad. But this year, I'm staying in Green Bay because it's not going to be as crowded in the hotels since there's not all these fans and everything. So hopefully it'll be a safer trip. But either way, it's going to be an exciting game, I believe. Two of the greats. Once again, last week it was Brees and Brady. This week it's Brady and Rodgers. And also in the other matchup, we've got Mahomes and Allen. So two young guys going at it and two all-time greats going at it. Going to be a good football weekend. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Again, you can read me at usatoday.com. I wrote a story off of this interview with Tom House if you want to get some more of your football fix that way. And also, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @ByMikeJones. Do me a favor, take this link, share it with your friends, tell them to subscribe and download and listen. And I'll talk to you guys again next time.